Oh, yeah. See, we plan ahead. That way we don't do anything right now. Earl, explain it to me.
And something that just came out this week was Hellboy, The Crooked Man from, yes, Catch Up Entertainment. I don't know. This is another indie horror movie, so to speak. I mean, everybody kind of knows Hellboy from the Guillermo del Toro movies, the comic books, or like the animated movies that they did back in 2006, 7-ish. And this just came out. It's available for purchase right now on Amazon for about 20. You can't exactly rent it yet, but
No.
you know, it sounds like Chad and I both watched this.
Yeah.
Kevin, before we get to some review here, what did you think about this? I know you haven't had a chance to see it, but do you know anything about the Crooked Man, or you got any thoughts on this?
All I know is that the creator had more of a hand in making it the movie this time, and he's been saying this is the movie that he's wanted to make for the longest time. So, I hope that means for fans of the comics that this is a good flick. I don't know. I really like the first two Guillermo del Toro movies. I really did. But I can't turn my nose at the third. I haven't seen it. I can't turn my nose at this one because, from what I understand, like nothing could be worse than the third. And even you've said that this is much, much better than that.
On David Harbour's Hellboy wasn't even really the third movie.
No.
I think we were cracking a joke before the stream, like Hellboy's got the problem of threes.
Yeah.
Like you can't get a third Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movie. You can't get a third animated movie. And this movie has now had this franchise 3 different starts for live actions, and they still can't quite nail it after Guillermo. But that being said, I watched this today with my wife, and while it is a bit on the lower budget side, it's actually a fun movie. It's really enjoyable. The runtime is pretty crisp, and it never feels like it's dragging too long. If anything, some of the CGI moments are a bit dated. It feels like this is special effects from early PlayStation 4 games, or even like movies from say 10 years ago. So you definitely feel that, but there is a lot of practical effects in this that are freaking killer. There's a specific scene where a body hopper returns to a body.
Yeah.
That was so fucking awesome. I don't want to get too spoilery for anybody who does want to see it, but my wife and I, we really enjoyed this. Actually, it was actually a lot of fun. Nobody was phoning this in. Acting was pretty good. It looked like everybody was having a hell of a time. And one of my favorite characters was the freaking priest.
Oh, he was great.
That appears during like the back half of the movie, and he slayed me so much with some funny lines. And all the characters actually had roles in this. There wasn't just a bit role that's just like, oh, that's just checking a box, or oh, this makes no sense. That person's just here to be a part of a body count. No, everybody had a role, and it's set during the 50s, and it had a very satisfying conclusion, and I had a fun time watching this. But Chad,
so
what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, this felt to me like an old Hammer horror movie.
Yeah.
Right down to the title card. Because my spouse and I watched this, I want to say Wednesday. No, not Wednesday. It was Thursday we watched it. And we were both just sucked in pretty much immediately. Kev, you may have a problem with it because there's a giant spider at one point.
Yeah.
Big
spider.
The preacher.
Wait, a giant fucking spider?
Yep. Giant fucking spider.
Yeah.
Preacher was great. The preacher, I had to look this up, was played by the guy who was the butler in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, that was him?
That was him.
Jeffrey? Oh, shit.
That was Jeffrey. Yeah, I had to fucking look that shit up. Also, this was an adaptation of a Hellboy story, The Crooked Man. I actually, halfway through, I fucking ordered the graphic novel.
Oh, cool.
Which I got today and I read through, and there was also a follow-up story, The Return of Effie Kolb, which was pretty good.
My nephew's borrowing it right now. But
Fucking Effie.
yeah, Effie. I went into this with
What a
zero
smoke show,
expectations.
but man, that character was fucking wild.
Oh, she was. I mean, I went into this with no expectations, and I fucking love the
Yeah.
Hellboy movies. I mean, I've said this before. I've got the right hand of doom on the inside of my right forearm.
Yeah.
And the only real problem I had, especially with pictures of Jack Kesey, who plays Big Red in this, is,
Yeah.
and my nephew agreed with me on this, is Kesey is a smaller guy compared to Harbor and compared to Ron Perlman.
Yes.
And Hellboy's a big dude. Kesey's not a big dude, but he fucking embodied the role. He got the gruffness down. When he utters, "Oh crap," it's like, nope, he's right.
Yep.
He's totally right. The right hand of doom looked right. The fact that he and the Crooked Man were all done with makeup effects
Yes.
was just, I mean, they're, yeah, like you said, some of the CGI effects were dated looking, but honestly, for me, that added to the charm.
Yeah, I agree.
And for me, this was about an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10. That was, for me, that was $20 well spent. I fucking love this movie.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna get this on Blu-ray. I'd probably go a little more 7.5 out of 10. It's certainly better than the David Harbour one. And
Oh
I
God.
appreciated the fact that Jake was actually more channeling, like, hey, what worked before was really Ron Perlman, and I felt like they did a great job with the effects, and he did a great job encompassing Ron Perlman while making it his own Hellboy.
Exactly.
And that is the kind of hybrid you wanted. David went too much the other way. He went too much more into, I'm making this my own goddamn role. Whereas you could have incorporated a little bit of Ron Perlman's act into it, but I understand what they were trying to do. They were really trying to do a complete reset
Yeah.
reboot with that. This feels more like, no, we're trying to make this feel like this is actually set before the original Hellboy 1 and 2 with Guillermo del Toro. That's kind of how I felt watching this, was like, hey, this is a good little setup. And then you mentioned the title cards. At first I'm like, were they intending to make this kind of like a 3-episode little mini series or TV show? Because of the way those cards came up, I was not expecting that. And so it kind of threw me off. I'm like, what the fuck was going on here? I'm like, all right, all right. By the time we got to the third one, I'm like, okay, I think I get it. These are the different names of the comics that this is based off of. We're hitting those as certain acts evolve into the plot.
Mhm.
So. But,
And just going off what you were saying, especially with like the David Harbour thing, is that Hellboy was more like a petulant teenager.
yeah.
And if you go into like the timeline, you know, Hellboy was conjured up in 1944. It's 1959 in this movie, so he's 15 basically. And the fact that they didn't
Yeah.
have him acting more like, you know, like the rebellious teenager like he was acting like in the 2019 movie, it just yeah, I watched that movie once and that was too many times.
Yeah, I hear you on
But
that.
this is a movie I'm gonna go, now that I have read the comic. I'm gonna go back and rewatch this and just see little details that I may have missed the first time around.
Do they talk
Yeah.
about Howdy Doody?
They do make references to Howdy Doody.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
refers to the Crooked Man as Howdy Doody.
Nice.
And there is one mention of Professor Broom, but they don't show him at all in the film.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
really?
the one thing to note, is it's very separate from the BPRD in that they're trying to complete like a transport mission of bringing the spider back into headquarters. But something awakens the spider, the train gets derailed. Well, a section of the train gets derailed, and then they have to go try and track down the spider, and they come across this Crooked Man issue going on in the forest that they're in. So
Yeah. And then also the difference between one of the differences between this and the Del Toro movies is that Hellboy and the existence of the BPRD are public knowledge. So people know who he is. There's reference to it was like a Life magazine article about Hellboy that another character named Tom had seen.
Oh wow.
So people do know about Hellboy. They do know about the BPRD. And they actually delve a little bit more into Hellboy's origins, not so much the being conjured up in that church in 1944, but even before that, how Hellboy
Oh.
himself came about.
Gotcha.
So there's a little bit of that sprinkled in there, which wasn't in the original story because that was an earlier one, and I don't know if Mignola had actually fleshed out Hellboy's origins quite as much at that point as he had in the later stories, where they did talk about basically Hellboy's parentage.
Mm. His mammy and pappy.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
But
it was
like
a
I said,
fun movie.
oh, it was a lot of fun.
I'll check that out then. I don't know that I'll
Yeah.
see the David Harbour one still, but I'll check this out.
The only reason I watched the David Harbour one is because I was able to get it out of the library. I didn't spend any money on it.
That's fair.
I actually bought that out of like the $5 bin at Walmart. It had the slipcover. It looked really cool. I'm like, oh, I've been meaning to watch this. I watched it. I'm like, even Mila, lady, girl, even you didn't know what the way your direction your character was going. And it's like, it was directed by freaking Neil Marshall. Like, come on, dude. You're so much better than this.
Studio involvement.
And then, of
Mike
course,
Mignola involvement.
the big, just like looks wise between Kessie's Hellboy and Harbour's is Harbour's Hellboy almost looked pink.
Yeah.
They
Like
did
Red
not
Hulk.
get the red right.
It was
Yeah,
the
at least
color
in
of big
this
red
with the
gum.
Crooked Man they did.
Mm-hmm. No, I was very pleased with that movie.
Right on. Yeah, that if anything, as a last thought on that, it really makes me want to go back and watch all the other Hellboy movies. And so my wife and I did actually go and watch like the Blood and Iron one. So
Oh, love that
that was
one.
pretty good.
If you haven't had a chance to watch Hellboy animated, do that. You've got the cast of the Del Toro movies
Yeah.
voicing their characters. I mean,
Donald
even
Blair, Ron Perlman, all of them.
and you got John Hurt back to
Yeah.
be Professor Broom in Blood and Iron.
Okay.
Yes. And he was the standout on that.
He was.
That in itself
And-
is a treat.
And I was watching a behind the scenes on that a while back, and Hurt had a little bit of an issue getting into the character because it was so much different in the animated as opposed to how he was in the live action movies. So he had to kind of get into a different headspace with Trevor Broom than he had originally.
He wasn't Papa anymore.
No, he was not Dad.
Interesting.
It was this was more based off of the comics as opposed to Del Toro's films.
Gotcha.
So again, Hellboy and the BPRD are public knowledge.
Yeah.
Huh. Very groovy. I have
Yeah, well, yeah, even in Crooked Man, they mentioned you were on the cover of Time magazine.
Yep.
That's when you know you made it, everybody, when you're on the cover of Time.
That's right.
Thank you for watching this clip from our Dead Wire live streams every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time. Did you like this clip? If so, please make sure you hit that like button, share, and subscribe to this video. Stay tuned to all of our video content. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.